There it is. Before we can get the game here, ladies and gents. Look out. There's a bit of production work coming in here. In off. I won.
Champ.
White drop.
Champ. Champ. I get along with him. Like, I can talk to him and know that what I've said to him, I won't even have to say to him, don't tell anyone, because he won't. And he does the same with me. Whatever I say to him, I know it won't be repeated to anyone else. Like, so he's the one I get along with the best. I'm closest to him, sort of.
Me and Brett had a little idea of him taking a panel beating course and me taking the motor mechanics course, doing our 4 years' time and coming out and going into business. We went for it. There was 8 positions vacant, and what was it? 300 or 400 people that went for it.
So few jobs and so many people.
Because I know what I want, and I'll keep trying till I get that. I don't care if I stay on the dole for 5 years or something. It won't worry me, but I won't end up staying there that long. But during that time, I'm just going to keep looking and looking because I don't like factories. There's too many disadvantages to them.
Why stick to a job? I reckon people who've got a job that they don't like, who stick to it and put up with it, there's only one reason they've got it. And that's because they have a responsibility to look after, like they're out of home or they've got to look after someone else too. And that's what keeps them at the job. And I reckon it sends them too in the head in a way.
Singapore, Manila and Hong Kong, 14 days, $930.
When we first met Brett and Greg, they were both looking for work. Brett had been apprenticed for 2.5 years as a fitter machinist at Cockatoo Island. He's now 18 and he's looking for outdoor work. Greg has about 2 years' experience as assistant to a motor mechanic. He's 17 and wants to be apprenticed as a motor mechanic.
I've worked in about, I've worked in a good 12 factories easily. I've worked in a good 12 factories. I haven't liked none of them.
What's the longest you lasted in a factory job?
About 2.5 months at the most. 2.5 months at the most.
What is it about them apart from just the monotony that you don't like, conditions and things like that?
Depends what sort of factory it is and depends what they make. You know, like you get some factories you just get bulk metal shavings. They're not really all that bad, the metal shavings. They're just filthy sort of thing. That's going into your skin sort of thing, all the crap that you get in your skin. But it's usually sawdust, all the sawdust in the air. You blow your nose. I used to work down at Madeira, just here across the paddock. Used to work down there, used to blow your nose by smoke, eh? You wouldn't get no grotty stuff coming out of your nose, you'd just get all sawdust coming out your nose.
Have you had a job that you've enjoyed and stayed with?
Mm. Yeah, when I was working at the VW King, I was there for 12 months, right? Without a ciggy, not one day off. Half a day I had to go to the doctors. Half a day in 12 months, and that's really good for me. That's what sort of job I was into. And then
they wanted to put me in the factory, so I was working outside on boats, which I enjoyed, but I only had a couple of weeks to go before I left, before I'd be stuck in the factory, and it was a really disgusting factory. Like, Cockatoo Island used to be a prison, and man, a lot of the buildings are still sort of original, but they've got support beams and everything so the place doesn't come around down your ears, you know. And the factories were filthy. When it rained, the island flooded, and there'd be all rats off boats and everything. There'd be rats when it rained. All rats would come up through the gutters and everything. It was a metalwork sort of industry, you know, job, apprentice, fitter, machinist, you know. And like I started real good, and I didn't mind it. But then I'd have to get up at 5:30 every morning, and go to work, catch a train, then catch a ferry, and then be in work, and you're stuck on an island all day. All day, you can't get off it, you know. Even to go and buy your lunch, you can't get off it, and you're stuck on an island all day. It's like being, you know, sort of day jail. No, and after, like, I thought I'll just get a job, and that was the first job that came up that I thought, well, it's all right job, I'll take it. So I did it. But I mean, I put up with it for 2.5 years, and I just got to the point where I couldn't do it anymore. I just said to Mum, I can't do it, I can't. I just couldn't bring myself to wake up, and I'd wake up in the morning and say, no, I'm not going.
So all I can see myself to do is just saying, right, I've done this and I've done that, and now I can become apprentice motor mechanic. You know, I have someone employing me. That's all I want to do. That's all I'm after anyway. I couldn't do nothing else.
You've still got time, like 17's well within the range of doing that apprenticeship.
Yeah, but when they apprentice people, like been said before, you know, they like them 16, you know, and 17 at the oldest sort of thing, you know. I wouldn't like to get to 18 because I think it might be a bit too late for them. They're usually like the younger people sort of thing.
Motor mechanics apprenticeships are pretty hard to get, but there's so many people. It may be still a possibility to get into a trade, but going around it, so you're not going directly into motor mechanics, like electrical fitting is similar, closer.
The thing is, if I did that and I didn't like the trade sort of thing, I'm doing sort of 4 years, it's something that I don't like, because I've had a mate that was fitter and machining out of Cockatoo Island, and he was up into his 3rd year. He just couldn't handle it no more. He was nearly there, you know, he only had another year to go, and he just said, no, I'm not doing something that I don't like. He threw it all in, he was indentured and everything.
Good money. First year I think I was getting 62, and second year I was getting up to about 85. And I was getting 120 bucks in the hand some weeks. That's because I was doing overtime, say working from 8 till 3 on Saturday, or one night a week till 8 o'clock, and you know, you'd pick up about 40 bucks just for that.
So it wasn't the money. You gave it a fair bash for 2.5 years.
Yeah, I stuck it out as far as I could, and then I just got to the point where I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't. It was shocking to wake up in the morning. I hated going to sleep because I know I'd have to wake up in the morning and go there, you know. It's like going to jail.
But so a lot of people say to you, oh, but that's a job, it's a good job, why don't you cop it, that's life, that's hard work, so...
Yeah, see, if I didn't like it then, I wasn't going to like it in the future. So what's the use having a trade that you don't like, that you know you won't do just because you hate it, you don't like it? What's the use having a job you don't like? That's what made more sense to me than anything.
What sort of job do you think would give you more prospects, thought you'd enjoy more?
I wouldn't worry about a job if I liked it, what prospects it was. I would, but it wouldn't worry me as much as a shit job, you know. I just don't like working in factories. I'd sooner work outside and do that. And like the wage of a tradesman there is the wage of a job you can get without any qualifications at all, like even in a factory. The work might be a little bit worse, but it's still same or better pay. And I mean, you've been to tech for 3 years, you've done an apprenticeship for 4, and you don't get any, you know, you haven't got any extra money or anything to show for it.
So it wouldn't wash with you if someone said to you, threw away a trade, you know?
Nah, I said I threw away a trade that I didn't want, that I couldn't do. So what's for you? A lot of people can't understand that.
So that gives you about 10 weeks altogether, really, to find a job. That includes the holidays, so that you come back with an apprenticeship, hopefully. It's big, hopefully, but it also means that something like looking at least a dozen times in every one of those 10 weeks, so that's at least 120 jobs, plus checking out the apprenticeship directorate.
So you've got to do this for 1 day a week for 10 weeks, is that right?
Yeah, and then during the 10 weeks try and find employment.
That means you've got to find an apprenticeship during the 10 weeks.
Yeah.
What happens if you don't find it?
Well, I'll probably have to leave the tech after that, but I reckon I'm going to find it anyway. I want to. I've got to.
You're sort of feeling confident?
Yeah, maybe a little bit too confident too. I don't let that get to me anyway.
Anne was saying there's going to be a lot of hassle to go around to employers. Are you prepared for that?
Yeah. If I want to do something, I've got to do it, eh? I've got to be prepared for it.
Is it going to mean quite a change in your lifestyle?
Yeah, I'll have to. I'll have to.
What's it mean giving up?
Each night down at the pub. And going out each night for all the boys after the pub, you know.
What about school? Did school give you any ideas of what you wanted to be or put you in any direction?
No, see, when I was at primary, I used to be really brainy, you know. That's probably why I got the thought about being an astronaut. But when I got into high school, it was a complete change. Like, you haven't got the same sort of personalised touches, one teacher all the time, and you're forever just walking from classroom to classroom, just carrying your bags around, and you haven't got a desk or nothing to leave them in, you know. And like, you might be in a class the whole year, and the teacher just won't know you, won't even know your name, you know. And I just dropped as soon as I got to high school, just dropped down and down, you know. But I finished fourth form, you know. But high school just left me with nothing, you know. I just had no thoughts of what to do whatsoever. I was just out to get a job.
Yeah. Did you find that very, very depressing, you know, sort of the drop?
No, not at the time. I just learned to put up with it, you know. But see, when I went to school, I was in 1B, and there was about 8 classes, and they said to us, in the assembly hall, they got all the new first formers in there. They said, right, the boys in 1A and 1B have got to pick subjects like a language or art or anything like that, because if they pick woodwork, they'll probably get rejected, because that's for the, you know, the lower classes. You've got to take the harder subjects. So I did French and art, and when I come out of school, I mean, I couldn't speak French properly because I didn't like it. I could only count up to 10 after 4 years, and I used to get so many notes in that sent home because, you know, I wouldn't do my homework because I couldn't do it. And who wants to employ someone with the qualifications of just a normal school certificate, and a person who gets a French pass that can't speak it, or is an artist, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, a school certificate is just a school certificate for me because there's nothing on it that I want to do.
Just before I was leaving to come over, I got this telegram. It says, please call an employment office in person.
What does that usually mean?
That means that they've got a job for you. It's going to be a factory job anyway.
Is that what they normally give you, factory jobs?
It's the only jobs that I've got off them. I've got a fair few off them.
And that's been over the last 7 months, say?
Yeah, over 7 months, yeah.
How many factory jobs have they offered you?
Yeah, over a good half a dozen, easily.
Have you turned down every one?
Yeah, bar about 2 of them. Because at the time I had no choice, I had to work because I owed money. I just had to work, you know. I couldn't owe money and stay on the dole at the same time. Wasn't doing me any good.
Have you told them you don't want a factory job?
Yeah, I say, oh, you got me down there as apprentice motor mechanic, that's what sort of job I want. So there's nothing about it, and I says, oh, well, I can't take your job anyway because there's no transport to get me there. They say, don't worry about it.
See how you go this time, eh?
Yeah, right out then.
Okay,
See us. what did I tell you? So I'd go in, I'd get a factory job, and they wanted me for a process worker over at Carlton,
Yeah?
where they usually have it, yeah. And just says that there's no transport there. He's always offering me jobs over at Carlton. I just can't do it. So he just says, fair enough. And then that was it.
Do they suggest that it's your fault that you haven't had a job for quite a few months?
Yeah, they try to make out that you're a bum sort of thing, you know, because you cash government checks. So most people just think you're a bum sort of thing because you're on the dole. They don't really get into it and know that what your position is like, you know. It's the only hassle about it.
Do you ever get that feeling yourself that it is your fault? Does that get through to you, that attitude?
If they come on too strong sort of thing, I'll get up them because you don't like being someone that you don't really know. They're just there behind the counter and they're giving you the wrong jobs and they're trying to make you out to be a bum sort of thing, or not really a bum, but they hassle you about not working for such a time.
Yeah, so you've been out of work since then?
Yeah. Since you had the June.
7 months.
7 months. Yeah, 7 months.
Did you think that you'd get a job pretty quick?
Yeah, I did, see, because I got my holiday pay and I had about $600, and for 6 weeks I went around looking, trying to get jobs for 6 weeks, and I didn't even bother about thinking on the dial, of getting on the dial till me money ran out, and then I thought to myself, it suddenly hit me, I've got no money, you know? No money, it was bad.
Yeah.
So then I went on the dial and nothing's happened from that.
I'd say the next thing that we can try is getting in touch with the Apprenticeship Directorate because of the experience that you've had and seeing if there's any way that they can place you.
Says, you must be Gregory Pennell. And I says, yes. He says, sit down. I went over and I sat down. And then he told me to pull a chair up really close to the table and says, I won't bite you. And then he just leaned on his arms and just looked, you know, right at me face to face sort of thing about this far from each other. And then he was telling me to look straight at him, not look around, you know. And I just says, oh, I'm up in the building this high, you know, I just like looking out the window at the scenery and that. Tells me not to look around, always look at your employee if you're going for an interview and take your earring out of your ear. And just hassled me on little things like that, but apart from that he was all right.
Can you tell you how many other motor mechanics they've got on their books, motor mechanic apprentices?
No, he said there's too many, more than they can handle anyway. Just says that everyone wants to be into that sort of thing. Well, not everyone, but it's the biggest trade anyway, he said, with the most people in it. He said that. Showed him my reference, he said my reference was really good.
So you're feeling discouraged or still the same?
I don't know, maybe a little bit discouraged sort of thing, you know, because I was expecting maybe a job to go to or something through it.
So what's the program now? Just stick to the tech and keep looking?
Yeah. Keep looking. Been doing that for a while.
Have you tried for any other apprenticeships?
Yeah, another one.
What was that?
On the council in town as a plumber.
What happened there?
I had to do some tests. I went in town and there was about 250 blokes going for 6 jobs, and you had to pass a test first, an English and a maths test, and apparently I passed it because I had to go back in town, and they just said, we'll contact you and let you know whether you got the job or not, and they just said, sorry, you haven't got the job.
Would you try for apprenticeships again, or have you given that away?
No, given that away. I wouldn't even try it. Why that one appealed to me is because I knew if I'd done a plumber one, I wouldn't be at the same place all the same time, and I could do it on my own after 4 years.
And the money's fairly good in plumbing, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's fairly good, but what appealed to me more was I could do it myself without having, I could be my own boss.
Maybe 80% of the people that I see that want to do an apprenticeship want to be a motor mechanic, or an electrician, or maybe sometimes plumbing, things that they know about, things that they can see, things that make sense in their life. They don't want to be a boilermaker or a welder or a fitter or things that like that unless they know someone, their brother's done it, their father does it, or they know what it is. So even as far as where they look, how many places they look, how far across Sydney they look, all these things restrict their choice in the first place, and then they're restricted outside of themselves by just what's available, really, which is nothing much.
What are the options open that you can see to kids if they can't get an apprenticeship, if they're unskilled and probably don't have their school certificate? What else is there, say, in this area?
I don't know, it just comes back to factory work, maybe, you know, hassling to fix up machines there, getting yourself in the right place with that, but I don't know, there aren't any alternatives. There's no assistant apprentices, there's no things where you can do something similar and feel just as good about it. It's just either you have that magic apprenticeship or you don't.
Is factory work the only alternative you've got?
At the moment, in the position that I'm in, it is. But I don't want it to be. I wouldn't like it to be if I could help it, but I just get left with that chance and I've got to do it anyway. Sit down.
How do you mean in the position you're in that you've got to get something?
Fines and the money I owe and that. I just have to take whatever I can. No, I don't like taking whatever I can because I like to take what I know to do sort of thing, and the only job that I can get into and work at, and that's the only thing I want to take. I don't want to take factory jobs all the time. You don't learn nothing out of it.
Say the way of life your parents have, is that something that you'd like something similar to, or do you want something really different?
Not similar to, you know. I want something different, but it's all sort of around the basic idea of having, you know, a decent place to live with enough money to manage, you know. You know, that seems fair enough. That seems a good life to me.
Does it worry you that maybe the prospects for that look dim at the moment?
It does, but I don't know, I sort of got it in my head that it'll work out in the end, you know. I hope, anyway, you know.